Hey everyone, hope this is working. I'll have to double check to make sure, but thank you everyone for stopping by. I'm going to be doing a quick analysis. I want to do this more regularly throughout the Overwatch regular season, but I wanted to get started with a review of Shanghai Dragons versus Seoul Dynasty. This took place during the preseason. This was a pretty one-sided match in the respects of the score. As far as the gameplay, it was definitely a lot closer. But the main reason I wanted to review this specific game was to just get in the habit of it again and start doing Stratwatch again, but just kind of as like a beginning to the series again, kind of do a quick analysis. And then followed up after this, I want to start doing, a regular episode plus other content throughout. But I really wanted to kind of look at I'm going to have to close out of BNet real quick, but the Shanghai or the Shanghai Seoul game, because Seoul is going to be playing playing Dallas Fuel today, and that's probably the most anticipated hyped match of today. Two of the best teams are going to be clashing head to head. Arguably, in a lot of people's standings, you would see Dallas Fuel as top 3, and for Seoul, you would see them as number 1. That's kind of like the average, I would say, standings I've seen. So it's going to be a very, very hyped match. It's going to be very engaged. So hopefully when I do this, everything works out perfectly fine. Unfortunately, I do not have a webcam for this today, so it will be just the video. But again, we're going to be going over this map first, or this map, and then hopefully about that time, it'll transition nicely into being able to watch the Overwatch League. So we'll go ahead and get started right away. The map is going to be Eichenwalde. It is first going to be Seoul on attack. If the audio is not balanced, please do let me know in the chat. I can turn it down, I assume. I don't want to mute it because we do want some game noises, but or I can just turn up the mic. But anyways, the big thing that I wanted to talk about in this series is space control. And the first thing that's going to happen is right here. So basically what you just ended up seeing, I'm just going to go back a second or two here to this angle where they push up to the corner. And that's like the whole theme of this episode is I wanted to talk about space control, and this is something that Seoul does really well. So traditionally speaking, you have the main choke back here that pretty much every single team has to push through. The main choke is, of course, the primary push point. There is that door off to the right. It's like way back here, kind of where that arrow I just drew is. But the big thing about this push is that they first force over very hard with the Pharah, and the Pharah is going to roll out to about against this wall. Meanwhile, you see Miro and you see Zumba. Zumba's off to the side right now, zoning this side so they don't get flanked. But what Miro is doing is he's pushing up, right, and he's creating this space. And what they want to do is they want to stop this line right here. They want to draw a line about right here at this corner. And the goal of this push is just to secure this space. Like, no kills, whatever. If they get kills, then they're already winning the game, right? And that's kind of not the goal of this, right? This is the goal to set up against a team that is going to be able to defend. And so they set up this corner right here. After they set up that corner and they get the Pharah right here, they're going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side, which is the whole goal, right? They want to control this first left corner, and then they're going to get control of this close right corner you'll see in just a second. Waki doesn't overpeak. He just puts a little bit of pressure to get that control. And again, now you see, now that they have this area pushed back, these players have fallen back. They've used movement cooldowns. That's kind of like the key. You see, Roshan uses jump. You'll see, maybe DI uses his rollback, whatever, right? They see critical cooldowns, bubble being used, and they say, okay, we've secured this area, and now they're going to do the same exact thing here, where Rakid's going to set up right here against this wall, and Miro's going to push out slightly along this line, and he's going to just, again, want to control this angle right here. And if you combine it with this angle right here, what ends up happening is that the entire defensive side is stuck into this red circle right here. And what this achieves is tempo control. And that's kind of the whole theme of this VOD review, and kind of the theme that you guys should be looking for going into the Seoul match versus Fuel. If you can achieve space control, which is, again, the control of key points on the map, to be able to successfully push, or to be able to get angles of attack, angles of being able to shoot enemy heroes, or again, being able to secure what would be tempo at that point. And what that is basically just momentum of the game, right? If you control the space, you now have control of the tempo or the momentum of the game, which is who gets to decide when the fight happens and where it happens. When you've achieved this level of control, it's almost impossible per se to lose a fight, right? Like if every team was hitting the exact same number of shots, it would every single time come down to who has control of space. And the offense, you can't really see it with this image, right? But they have control of everything back behind them. They have control of the computer room. They have control of this far right flank around here that sets up. They don't use it, but they have control over it, and that denies the defense from being able to access it. So this is the first like space control play that's going to come out of Seoul Dynasty, right? And it's just very effective. Wakid takes a little bit of damage. He doesn't overpeak, and he lets the play develop. That's the other part, right? Is so once you've controlled space, you need to be careful about over-aggressing. Wakid could have continued to pressure in, knowing that Miro was going to be jumping soon, but instead he falls back and lets the opportunity of Dia overly focusing on him give a free jump window for Miro. And that allows Miro to get in with, you can barely see it on this on the main screen, but you can see right here he has full armor. He took no damage on that jump in, and that's absolutely critical. So again, taking space, controlling critical angles, using that to take momentum or tempo, which gives you the initiative to when you can decide to fight. The team that does not have space control cannot choose when to fight and is at the whim of the team in control. So this fight's pretty much just going to fall right into the hands of Seoul, right? And it has almost nothing to do with shots fired. It has everything to do with positions taken. They obviously have very good aim, very good follow-up as a team, but they put themselves in such a clean position to be able to take that fight that, it falls into place. So again here, same concept we're going to see applied again. First thing they're going to do is push up and look for potential kills. This is kind of an interesting decision by Roshan. He's caught out. He ends up jumping forward to try to, again, secure space. He just doesn't want his team to die. But in doing so, he loses a lot of HP. They lose the pressure of his body actually being able to do anything. And then now what's going to happen is, again, we're going to see this idea of space control leading to pressure and momentum and tempo. So right here, once they've lost this fight, right? Once Roshan's jumped in, fallen back, once they've demeched the Diva, Undead ends up going down during that, right? This whole line, sorry, we'll use this this color, consistency. This whole line is now behind it, is under control of Seoul, right? They have again played this idea of critical corners and boxed them in. Now, there's more finesse to it if you dial back the map and look at the castle as a whole as to how they went about doing that, but a lot of it is just in the moment of where heroes are positioned, because it is coming off of respawns. Not everyone is, it's not a perfect setup, right? It's more of a chaos management situation where Roshan is caught out in the middle of nowhere. He's got to make a play and Seoul has to respond off of it. But once they've gotten that close spawns taken care of, that chaos that isn't the setup dealt with, they immediately pressure up to this point. And the whole goal here, before they end up throwing it, is going to be to set up in such a way that this is the only safe tunnel. They want to deny this door 100%. They want to force them to come through this door. They want to have the Pharah sitting up here, Pharah like up here, just in this area, and then they can have the Tracer play like right here. They can have Miro easily jump from here to over here to, on these platforms. They can just control this, and then the offense has to break this aggressively to be able to stop the cart. And again, space control. All of the tempo, all of the momentum right now is in the hands of Seoul. And a lot of this does come down to, yes, they won the first fight, but we go back to why they won the first fight. They won the first fight because of good positioning, good peeling, and good space control. And so now this momentum is starting to build, is starting to snowball a bit. And that's the goal of Overwatch, is to seize tempo and snowball positions so that they can't have good fights. Now, what ends up happening here is a bit of over-aggression. I didn't really touch on it, but Munchkin and Zumba end up going a bit deep on that left side door, pushing past that critical line. And that's something that we can go back and talk about. But so like right here, let's say you're the offense, right? And you've controlled this line and the defense is set up in this room. Like, just hypothetically speaking, this isn't actually a good position, but if you ever push past the line you've secured, you are engaging and going for a fight. That means that you want to trade lives or you want to engage ults, right? You're not just poking and playing for space control, you are going in to actively want to kill the enemy team and to put them on respawn. That is the goal of the fight, and or to secure an objective, and or to change the ult economy. Those are the main reasons that you fight in Overwatch. Unless your team is built around it, right? If you're a team fight comp, it's a bit different. But these compositions are a lot more free-flowing, more dive-based. So what happened is, back there, is they pushed past this line, but not everyone on the team did. So now they lost all of this space control. So the tempo is kind of reset. The big advantage that they have, though, is that they didn't use any ults in that. They didn't over-aggress. They didn't make any fundamental errors past the wanting to get more than they could. They didn't use any ults, and now they're going to be able to push pretty effectively here again. And you'll see it, right? The first step to every single play that Seoul ever does is Miro and Zumba look for pressure on the enemy tanks to zone them back if they can, right? Obviously, other targets will be priority, but that zoning that they did right there allowed so much space to be taken, and it's seen right here, right? So at the beginning of that fight, you saw 2 tanks right here from the defense. Roughly maybe right here as well, right? And you have the offensive tanks right here and right here pushing in, right? And they just pressure them back. They force the Winston to jump up, and at that point, Zumba hard commits into the back, right? And Zumba's been here the whole time, creating space, creating pressure. This then opens up this entire side up here to be taken by the offense, which Wakid will do, and then zones off Dia and puts Dia into an awkward spot. And that's, again, it's just, this is what makes Seoul one of the best teams in the league right now. And this is why a lot of people are going to be hyping them up, as well as, you know, putting them at the top of the standings, because a lot of Overwatch teams don't have this level of cleanliness to their play per se. There's a lot of sloppy errors. There isn't as much discipline amongst the members to accept the need for other players to develop plays and to create that space. And they play off of that very well. And they have very talented players in every single position. But nonetheless, you still have to play off of each other in this kind of fashion to achieve it. So again, here, they do the same thing again. They set up against that wall, prevent these doors from being able to get controlled, and Dia flanks out. So that was really well done by Dia. And that's kind of the only answer in some respects to these kind of positional plays, right? We'll go ahead and we'll go back a second and we'll emphasize how important that is, because I didn't really emphasize it enough. Just literally 20 seconds ago, they have full control of these doors, right? They have Mercy up on this platform. They have Miro controlling this door right here. They have Farah up in the sky. There's no way that the offense or defense can reasonably get out to contest the payload without taking a ton of damage. But Roshan does the right thing and aggressively engages into cart, while that entire time Dia's been flanking around. So Dia, that high noon, he's been saving it now for I think like 2 fights. Pretty much is the only reason that they win this fight. Yep. Goes all the way around. And they give you a very good angle on this. Zumba tries to stop him, but, you know, it's hard because the 2 shots that go left and right that connect the kills are outside of the cone of the defense matrix, so it's roughly irrelevant. So once again, space creation, space taking. That's the first step to every good Overwatch play. What do? They just lost the previous fight. They have no space on the map. Defense has full position. Their first goal is to get Dia out of critical angles and to prevent him from being able to succeed. How do they do that? This bridge, this high ground. Because right now, I don't know how else to kind of articulate it, but this like rook or castle back there, the turret back there, plus this high ground over here, that's useless. That's useless. You don't want that. No angle on cart doesn't really accomplish anything. However, this bridge with this angle right here, this angle right here for him to shoot through, right? And then he has this angle over here to shoot through, those critical positioning. So first thing Seoul does is jump to remove that, take control of it fully. Munchkin goes in first, scouts the information so Miro knows what he's jumping into, and Zumba's close to follow. Dia has to back out. He runs away, and now you have your McCree running around in corners, hiding in rooms from the dive because of how much pressure that they are putting on him. Munchkin is going to win the 1v1, and that's kind of more just a little bit of sugarcoating to the situation. They were going to win this fight regardless, given, again, this positioning. And there's nothing coming out of the defensive side. There's no active space control coming from them. They're just receiving the engage coming out of Seoul and trying to respond to it effectively. And you can't win a fight if you're not the one in control of tempo most of the time. It's going to require you to use more ults. It's going to require you to hit more shots. It's going to put more pressure on you to perform rather than right now what Seoul is doing. So this is another really important push here. So again, Shanghai, the only time that they've made that kind of tempo play or play to secure tempo was Dia's flank, right? And that's more of a value play, right? Because they're basically banking that entire fight on him. If he gets caught, he gets found out, or he dies, they lose that fight. But then the next fight comes up, and it just feels like Munchkin, Miro, and Zumba are able to jump in free and secure Dia's position, which shouldn't be the case. There's no counter peel coming out of the tank. There's no counter pressure coming out from Undead or Roshan or Zushu at all. Like, they're just not creating any pressure. And so all of the momentum, all of the control of the initiation of the fights is in the hands of Seoul. And so now, again, the snowball happens. They're going to push up and they're going to go for securing key positions. The Diva Bomb is literally just to split any remaining heroes, so they're easy kills. But after this, they're going to set up a two-step zone control, right? From about this angle to here to about this angle, this area up here, and this area up here. Munchkin's going to run around, right? This is Munchkin. This is the Tracer. Tracer's going to hold this area. Next area is these two high grounds, which we'll use different color. For Farah, we'll use purple. So Farah is going to set up on these two high grounds, and she's going to bounce around, right? It's going to be Farah. And then in the meantime, you have the tank set up back here, ready to control the cart and prevent any targets from getting in. Tracer can always fall back to Farah, and Farah can always fall back to the tanks. But the defense cannot choose to engage when they want to, because the defense is having to push out of this containment. The defense, and the offense could just disengage, right? That's kind of the key. The defense could fight if they wanted to, but Tracer's just going to back out if she doesn't feel like it's beneficial for her to stand her ground. The Farah can always fall back, not beneficial to stand ground. Or if they feel like they've made the defense, the Shanghai Dragons in this case, has made a critical mistake, Seoul can pressure incredibly hard from multiple angles off of this. Again, the Farah and the Tracer can come in from sides, the back, and this is, again, just space control. There is no tempo that Shanghai is going to be able to secure from coming out of spawn here. There usually isn't. But with this level of redundancy in their game plan, to have multiple layers to it is really critical. And I really like to see this. And this was something that this entire map just kind of struck out at me as a brilliantly planned map. And maybe not all of this is pre-planning. But a lot of this is going to come down to them having played this map a lot, played off of each other a lot, and sat down with their coaching staff and developed these kinds of setups that use these critical angles so effectively. So now you see Miro moving up to secure that position. Farah is just going to keep falling back to the tanks. Tanks are going to pressure off the enemy tanks, who don't really do much, right? Roshan doesn't get much done. Undead can't really get into the back line because the supports are so far back. Like, you see that, right? The supports are all the way back around the corner. And they can't even deal with Wakid. They're going to get surrounded, and they're going to get just devastated here. And again, this is how you win an offense. You take space, you get control of critical angles, which makes hitting shots easier. And then you use that control, right? Tempo, as it's called, or momentum, to take the fights the way you want them to. And again, the whole big concept from this is, there are two big concepts from this, are the relationship between space control and tempo. And how in Overwatch, you have to have space control, because otherwise you have no good angles, you have no ability to choose when and where to fight, which means you don't have tempo, you have no momentum, you have no control in the game at all. And that all starts with space control, and it comes from tanks, and it also comes from your DPS letting plays develop and not overcommitting to things that aren't worth it, right? Like you saw at the very beginning there, Wakid could have hard committed to that fight, but he just backed off behind a corner. He was at 50 HP and he was getting pocketed by a Mercy. He could have taken 2 more shots, potentially, with the Mercy healing going off. But he's like, Miro's going to jump soon. I've done my job. I have made space for my tank to be able to jump in freely. Miro takes that free jump, and they take a free point. So this offense goes, to say the least, pretty poorly for Shanghai. But let's kind of contrast the difference between what the teams do here. All right, so Roshan hard jumps over here to the far left. Now, if we go back to what Seoul did in our heads, time machine here, we saw Farah hit up this corner up here. That's barely on the side screen. We'll just draw over Roshan. Farah was up here, right? And we had Zumba and we had Miro playing this tank. Right? But they did not use movement CDs to secure this space. Rather, they just pressured with left clicks, maybe barrier, but I didn't see Miro use barrier there. Maybe I'm wrong. But they pressure. Roshan jumps. Now, this means that Roshan can't change positions. He has committed to holding where he is. This gives that defense the option to wrap around right, with Roshan not being able to do anything about it. I'll change color for that, sorry. Blue is the current attacking team. So the defense could wrap here, gauge aggressively. They could pressure this angle right here and isolate like this. That's really bad drawing. I need to watch more Bob Ross. Is basically what this is telling me right now. They could wrap all the way around this way. Let's not up here, but around this way. They could cut a line right here between the tank and this center structure and section off Roshan and hard engage him. But they have choices. Yet by committing to this this jump that Roshan has, he has committed his team to a play. So we'll see how it works out for them. But again, just contrast that, right? Space control, both teams go for it, but there's a hard commitment coming out of Roshan. So Undead going to play relatively the same place, but look at Roshan's HP, right? He dies. They pressured him. What can his team do about it? Nothing, because he can't escape. He has no way to survive himself. Miro would have saved his jump in that situation, because Miro would have said, I can still push them back. And so now you look at the contrast again of the positioning of the defense from Shanghai. Seoul. Miro is going to hold this left angle so that he can't be spammed, right? The only angle that can spam him is this one, right here. Which means that they have to get control, the offense, of this area. And I guess you could say this area too, but still, they have to get control of this. Meanwhile, you have Wakid, who can roll out this way, quickly spam. Munchkin's jiggle peeking this corner right here. He can spam. And Wakid can even just quickly roll out and spam off the tank or spam off these walls. Ryu Zhanghong is just far back, isolated. And that entire time, you have Zumba just in the back dealing with a tracer, but still, he could be at this angle. Sorry, that was a bad line. Holding this line right here, very much. Or he could be backing up Miro and holding this line. But again, space control. This is active space control coming out of the defense, whereas you saw Shanghai not really do any active space control. So, watch as the offense moves in. It's going to be very difficult for them to be able to get their play set up or developed because they don't have any space to work with. They take up against that pillar. Miro and Zumba. Oh yeah, no. This is the push where it goes well. Zumba reacts late to this. He gets demeched very early. Yeah, Free Field gets 2 huge picks off of that because Wakid had to both reload and was looking at the tracer. They will show it in the cam. At an awkward time though, because this retake is actually kind of hugely important. So if you look at the ult economy, right before this starts, okay, so they're going to go into a replay. You're going to have to work with this bottom right screen, and I'll do my best to walk through it. The offense is coming up on multiple critical ults, right? They're going to need the Valk, because one, Toby just used it, but they're going to need it to win this fight. They have Tracer Bomb, they have Trance, they have Barrage, they have Diva Bomb, and they're coming up on Roshan's ult. Pretty much the same as the defense. The difference is that the offense is going to commit 5 to 6 ults and still lose this fight because they never ever once take critical space. They pretty much just stay far back down the point. Right, so Roshan's going to take that high ground a bit. Zumba gets out. Zumba's able to stall cart, right? And so you have the tanks battling on the point down here. Meanwhile, Toby's able to fly in the sky for free. This was so hard to watch. So they commit early bomb. Zumba gets the kill on Undead. That's not supposed to happen. And Wakid gets a kill on Dia, which again is not supposed to happen. This is after the pulse bomb has gone out, but... Right? We're now 5-6 seconds after I talked about it. They've used Trance, they've used Pulse Bomb, and they've used Valkyrie. On the opposite side, we've seen Valk, which is just a trade, or at least to get back on point and keep Zumba alive because he's the one contesting during that entire time. Ryu Jaehong uses that Trance just to stabilize, keep Toby alive, and Zumba uses the bomb during the Trance to get a free kill and low risk of dying because he's in Trance. Right? Now, during all of that, Dia dies, doesn't get a kill with the pulse bomb to Wakid. Zumba gets a kill in the bot with the bomb onto Undead, which halts his ult progress, puts his barrage behind. And now the defense is in full control of the point. Ryu Jaehong has his Trance running for a second or two longer. They push up with it and control key ground. Zumba's just going to hard pressure Roshan and say, Roshan, you cannot create space. We're just going to get in your face, and Diva shreds Winston, so it works out well for them. And ultimately, this fight is going to go down in an unfavorable fashion, right? Undead uses the barrage, but dies to Toby, because he wasn't, if I recall correctly, he was not pocketed during that. Yeah, see, no pocket, lack of communication, 5 King isn't there. And then now this Diva Bomb just gets thrown out. And this is where it gets kind of sloppy, right? The Riptire probably wasn't needed, but... Now they only have Roshan's ult. That's it. They used 5 ults. They got 2 kills across that entire fight. 2 kills, right? I think a total of 2 kills, and that's it. So, space control, right? It's not about execution always, as much as it's putting yourself in position to have good execution. You will definitely see a lot of games where analysts and commentators will talk about the execution, and it is very important. I don't mean to take away from that, but look at the setup for that execution a lot more to see what's going to end up happening, right? Ryu Jaehong, critically good positioning. There's nothing else you can really say about the guy. He always in the right place at the right time, for the most part, hitting good shots. But now it's, how are you supposed to win this next fight? You generally don't, right? They even used Roshan ult. They got close to it, but they took no space during that. So let's watch that again real quick, because I want to go over that fight one more time before I move on to the final fight of the game. So again, space control, right? Ryu Jaehong is never denied here. You let a Zen sit at this angle, which is technically, like, this whole area is technically supposed to be controlled by the offense right now, yet there is a Zen sitting at a close left corner spamming. Don't take care of Ryu Jaehong. Let that space go uncontrolled. Okay, he gets tons of ult building, which his Trance is going to be used in this fight if I recall correctly. It might not be, though. 5 King goes in aggressively, dives in the back right corner. Wakid's able to just keep this corner and just spam. And there you go. Like, there wasn't ever a point where the defense fully lost control of being able to fight on the point. And that's what happened on Seoul's first push. When they forced them back, first left, then right, and then engaged, the only effective position that the defense could have taken was bar. And they also did it in that order for that reason. If you push first here, you force them back this way. Okay, that's Seoul's plan. You then reverse push this way, it forces them back that way. That cross-section ends at the bar, and that whole area that you just watched Ryu Jaehong destroy the side of Seoul and get a free Trance to win that fight, all comes from not controlling this left side at all. Not pushing that left side effectively and clearing this tunnel. And now it's just going to get retaken here by the defense. Zumba's just going to go around and create space and chaos. So now early Trance comes out, but Toby does have the Valkyrie, which is going to make this fight very awkward. Wakid ends up staying alive, if I recall correctly, at 3 bars. And they just lose this fight at this point. They're kind of throwing it. Dia does play very well during this, and it's probably worth taking a second to point that out is that most of the fights would not have even been close at all if it wasn't for Dia. Two 2K pulse bombs, multiple individual kills in the fights, but it's just ultimately not enough, right? And again, all of this comes down to space control. And I think it's one of the most important facets of Overwatch that doesn't get looked at in more direct analysis. A lot of the time you will talk about, it'll come by in passing on analyst desks or other, I guess, other videos. There are definitely analysts who do a good job talking about it, but there you go. So they take it barely, but, you know, this is where it hurts. So, even if you lose the first point in a game of Overwatch, right, you need to get as much out of it as possible. It really sets the tempo. You look at, in contrast, Seoul Dynasty caps the first point with 3 minutes and 20 seconds remaining. So Shanghai caps with 0, right? Pretty huge difference. That's obvious, right? But what's not as obvious in these kinds of situations is that the offense has lost a few heroes. There are overtime respawns. Heroes might be coming back from first point. They're not going to actually get this cart through that door until about 2 minutes, a little bit under 2 minutes. And at that point, you have roughly 2 to 3 pushes to secure the entire section of the map. You start putting yourself in this horrible, horrible cycle of we don't have enough fights to get what we need done. So you start making over-aggressive plays to try to compensate for the lack of space or the lack of ult economy, because the game has been basically against you, right? Tempo has been in control of Seoul for most of this game. Besides basically those like last death throws of Shanghai to be able to cap the point, really every single fight has gone the way that Seoul has wanted, with free space for Ryu Jaehong, with Key being able to move around freely and get lots of damage in. So now we're going to see how Shanghai handles this situation, right? So, yep. Here's the another one. Yep. But see, the Tracer has to go and deal with that, right? That's like part of the issue in and of itself. That replay, as good as that pulse bomb looked, that replay is a very big symptom of the core issue of space control, because you have to commit a Tracer pulse bomb to take out a Junkrat Zen, who are in an arguably greedy, pushed up position that could be punished very quickly and effectively by the tanks. Why? Right? So Shanghai did not control that space at all. Thus had to use low value ults, or a high value ult for a low value situation, compared to how they could handle the situation with 0 ults, which is exactly what Seoul did. So Munchkin's going to stand his ground. Discord's going to be put on the Winston whenever he dives him. Mercy's going to be pocketing him, and they're going to hold this space. That is the goal of Munchkin. He will, like, not die holding it, but in a lot of respects, he is the indicator of how much control Seoul has on this map. If he's able to free peek this corner, spam, and get pocketed, they're in very much control of the map. And if every single dive gets pushed back, there's not going to be much chance that they're going to actually complete this map. And that's exactly what you're going to see for the next 2 pushes. A good pick on Ryu Jaehong, but Roshan goes down. I thought he'd go in for the Helix Rocket there. But he does end up getting them. So far, the only thing that's positive that has happened in this fight for Shanghai has been them getting a res off. And that's it. That's the only thing in the kill feed that went well for them. And again, this is all about space control. Sure, they lost Ryu Jaehong, and that sucked. But at the same time, Munchkin was able to get out alive. They were able to kill the Winston and trade for it. They were able to desuit the Diva, which allows Wakid to get a free rocket barrage. So, again, space control. So here, this setup, it's all again down to these 3. Munchkin needs to stay alive. If Munchkin is not getting focused and Ryu Jaehong and him can separate, then Toby will prefer healing Ryu Jaehong over Munchkin, assuming he's not getting focused. But if Munchkin gets focused, he's never going to die. He's going to drop station, he's going to get orb, he's going to get damage or heal boosted, depending on his HP and the damage incoming. And the Discord's going to go on one of the targets, and he's going to shred them. As long as they have control of this, he has a free spam angle down. And now it's just on Miro and Zumba and Wakid to be creating space so that they can never effectively get on this soldier. So if they get dove on the top, either Miro has to make a decision at that moment. And notice his positioning too. I really like this, right? You can't really see it right now because it's low quality. I apologize. But here are the 2 defensive tanks. They're set up in easy counter jump position if they feel like they need to peel for Munchkin, or if the dive, let's say it's just Roshan, right? If just Roshan dives, whatever, Discord kill him, Munchkin's got that. We don't even need to worry about that. Him and Miro and Zumba are going to coordinate a dive either onto cart, onto supports. That will then also be cleaned up by Munchkin after he's able to take out the Winston. So again, choices are available for the defense, whereas you don't really know if those are available here for the offense, because look at this, right? Oh, Roshan gets the kill on him. I forgot about that. Okay, well, if this was me casting the game, it'd be Caster's Curse right there. Wakid, though, now all this space creator, right? They literally had to spend all of that time and effort worrying about him. Munchkin, that is. Wakid's able to literally go around behind, drop through main, shoot melee, shoot the Zen, get the kill, and there's really not much you can do. So, space control. Roshan's going to die here, and this is actually going to be the end of the game. There's no heroics that happen there. So, again, going back through this whole thing, the emphasis is space control. And I'll go back to the, I believe it was somewhere around here, the very first play. Because I feel like, again, this very first push embodies pretty much everything of this concept that needs to be understood. And again, this is something that can not only be taken into pro scrims and, should already be involved in pro scrims and VOD review and things that teams are talking about. But this is a concept that you can easily take to your ranked play, and you can even coordinate with players, right? Players don't need to understand what these super core concepts for it to be able to be articulated as a team, right? So, space control. If we're going to push this first point, we're always going to need to push them into the back, and this means taking space. We want to take critical angles, which are angles that the defense or offense would both want to be able to spam, to be able to hold, and be able to damage without too much rebuttal. Jiggle peak corners, stuff like that. Right? So this angle and this angle are the two critical angles, which then puts the defense into a box. And you want to do it in order so that they can't retreat out. This angle is less important because this flank is kind of just like, meh. It's not going to give you nearly as much angle. You have to not only go all the way around, but up the stairs, and then you can shoot. Whereas this angle over here is what I'm going to draw in yellow. This one that Ryu Jaehong and the Junkrat use, Wakid, very critical angle. So we're always going to push the weaker angle first, and the stronger angle second. Because we want to have control of the stronger angle second always. And then this space control gives you tempo and momentum, which is then the ability to control when the fight happens. You've already dictated where it's going to happen. You've dictated the defense to be in a certain position. So now you get to choose when, and you get to choose how. You get to choose which heroes are going to go in first. Wakid taking some of the damage to get Dia off focus. Miro pre-setting up at a corner. The second Wakid is hard focused, that's when Miro looks to go for the dive. And then they're just going to quickly clean it up and win the point. So again, guys, I'll go ahead and let this play out here a little bit for those who came in late. But this is pretty much going to be the end of the VOD review for today. To be the broken record again, it's all about space control. It's all about securing that tempo through space control. And it's about what you do with it afterwards. And this is something that Seoul is going to be doing all day today against Fuel. And we'll see how Fuel is prepared against it. We'll see what their general strategy of, passive space taking, as we saw on the defense with Seoul. And, there you go. There was the attack with the space control. But again, we'll see what Dallas Fuel has. You saw Seoul was able to use just good positions at the beginning of a fight on the defense to be able to actively mitigate any space control coming out of the offense. You saw them actively pressure critical corners on the offense to secure said space and push the defense back. So we're going to see tonight. It's going to be a really good match. I highly encourage, if you only are going to watch one match tonight, the Seoul versus Dallas Fuel game is going to be quite an exciting one. Hopefully not a one-sided show, but it hopefully will be a very, very exciting match. But again, guys, I really appreciate everyone who stopped by. This is going to be just the beginning of the content that I want to start pushing out. Again, this was the kind of like the beginning of my second season, or whatever you want to say, of Stratwatch. We did a preseason analysis of Shanghai versus Seoul. It was game 4, Eichenwalde. You can check that out on overwatchleague.com/in US or whatever English language you are, and you can check out the videos there. But again, I appreciate it. If you guys would like more of this content, you guys would like to see it, or hear about it when it comes out, you can follow me on Twitter at RaptorsZOW. You can click follow on the channel right above you, or you can go to youtube.com/user/DotaRaptors or Raptors Gaming, and you can subscribe to the YouTube. I will be uploading the video there. That way you guys can watch at your own time if there's any parts you missed. But again, thank you so much, everyone. I will be doing more in the future and continuing back on the content creation train for Overwatch League, and I hope to give you guys lots of insight into the ways of the pros, as well as anyone who's looking to improve their game to that next step to be able to compete with the pros, to be able to understand their thought process, their mindsets, etc. So this was a Stratwatch. I'm Raptors. Thanks, guys, and enjoy the Overwatch League. It starts in just a few minutes, I believe. 15. Hype, hype.